it started off, I think, with just one, being passionate about what you do, like literally believing in what you do. I owned this thing 2 years before I started here. I'm not saying you have to do that, but Zig Ziglar has this great quote that says, if you don't believe in what you're selling, that's kind of like working at Ford and driving a Chevy truck there every day. It just doesn't add up.
Right.
So being passionate about what we do, realizing how it could have helped my family, knowing there's other people out there. I mean, the stats say I think only 7% of American families have a supplemental coverage plan.
Probably.
So there's tons of people, and that doesn't mean that 93% haven't been exposed, I'm sure, but they just don't have it. Maybe they haven't been educated properly. Just wanting to help people, and that's really what it was.
I think that's huge. Wanting to help, right? Everybody gets into a career or sales or whatever. Or if you're pursuing that, you're not going to ultimately win the long game. You have to pursue that value, that passion of helping others. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the KB article. We're excited today. We got Mark Beelek on with us. Mark is an entrepreneur and just an all-around great guy. I've met him a couple of years ago in a very interesting way, about 1,500 miles away from here, or 1,000 miles. So it's great to have him on. We've talked a lot, engaged a lot, and he's just got a powerful personality. And if you follow him and see what he does on social media with his family, how he intertwines family and business and just really living a high-level life all around. So also with us, Kyle, my business partner and co-host here. We're going to just talk openly about, learn a little bit about Mark and his story and how he's successful in both his business and personal life. So welcome, guys.
Hey, glad to have you here, Mark. So nice to meet you, and let's take it from there. So,
Mark. So you want to tell the story about how we met, man?
Yeah, that's there I was. No, I'm kidding. So we were at a mastermind event down in Texas, and I think you were sitting behind me. And I'm 6'5", and so you kept on tapping me, seeing if I could know. But we just started interacting and talking about what we do. And come to find out, I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. You live in Council Bluffs, and we know some of the same people. You provide some of our benefits that we offer to some of the employees, and we know a lot of. And so we just kind of serendipitously met one day down in Texas, and have become kind of buddies ever since. We see each other at the airport as we fly down to events in Texas, and have just gotten to know each other over the past, almost 18 months.
Yeah, man, it's been good. And I told Caden, my son was with us and I told him this morning, hey, Mark's coming on our podcast. And I said, you recall the first time we met, right? Down at Mastermind in Dallas. He goes, yeah. So my first comment was, of course, I sit somewhere where I got like a 7-foot dude sitting in front of me, and I can't see Ed Milet or any of these guys. But anyway, he just started laughing. He wanted to say hi. Anyway, but Mark,
for the record, Chad's not that terribly short. I mean, he's not. He's pushing 5'2", 5'3", right? No, you're like 5'.
Man, I'm all no,
you're like
5'8" and a half, 5'9", bro.
I mean, it's not like you're a dainty guy, but
he's the tallest short guy I know.
Right.
I love it. I love it. Well, Mark, it's been good getting to know you over the last year or so, but tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of young ages. I mean, don't go into every minute detail, but where you're from, what you're currently doing, kind of what your inspiration is to.
What gets you going every day?
That's a good question, man. So I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska. I was born in Longmont, Colorado, but my parents sent me here. They were very young when they had me to live with my grandparents. When I was a month old, when I was about 6 months, they came here. And we grew up, my dad was an auto mechanic, always worked with his hands, kind of a jack of all trades, could fix anything, which is are great skills to have. However, that didn't really pay a whole lot back in the day. He was a factory worker, worked at a place called Cushman here in town. And, we had a great life. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until we got a little bit older, and it was just good. And then as I'm going through life, my senior year of high school, he got diagnosed with lung cancer and he's only 41 years old. Our whole entire senior year was kind of him dealing with that. And unfortunately, right after I graduated, a couple months later, he passed away when he was 42. I was only 18 at the time. I believe my mom was 38. Yeah. And then my family kind of imploded, unfortunately. That was kind of hard on all of us. They'd been married for 23 years. He was kind of the leader, the A personality, the rock of the family. So we were lost for a little while.
And, how many siblings? How many siblings
just
did you have?
One.
Yeah.
My younger sister's about 4 years younger. She was 14 at the time. And just challenging. And a few years later, I decided, I want to be an oncologist to help people that dealt with stuff like that. And so got a job in clinical research, started trying to go to night school. I didn't really go to college right away after I graduated. I had to provide for myself. And it just, it got to a point where my mid-20s, 15 years of schooling before I started actually working just became less and less appealing. So I did a small stint in the mortgage business from 07 to 08, which is one of the craziest times to get involved in that. And currently, I'm one of, 24 agency owners for Family Heritage, which is a Globe Life company. And how I landed here was I bought a cancer plan from a friend of mine. He showed it to me back in 2006. And health insurance pays doctor bills, but not your bills. I remember we didn't live on the streets, so it wasn't crazy, but it was financially tough for our family to survive. They filed bankruptcy to protect the house. I drove my dad to treatment. So I thought, here, if we would have had this plan that would have infused cash into our family, man, that would have been huge. And then there's also a travel benefit involved. So, man, maybe if he would have went to somewhere like the Mayo Clinic or MD Anderson, maybe he'd still even be here, be alive. And then one of the biggest things, because there's other, companies in this space, is that if you never use it, after so many years, you get a check for 100% of your money back, minus anything you use. So, for example, on Tuesday, I went to a local business owner here. He's since retired in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I showed up at his house and delivered him a check for $20,000. All of his money that he paid in over the years. So I'm like, this is it was $50 a month for a young guy under 30. And I thought it was a no-brainer. And then 2 years later, during the mortgage crisis, I ended up starting for the company. I've been here over 15 years now.
That's terrific. Well, I used to sell something similar to that, and it was accident, health, and those indemnity coverages, and such. Because most people don't think of that. It's like you've got your medical bills. That's the big one you're all worried about. Well, now what happens when you're laid up for 4 or 6 months, and that type of thing. So there's generally nothing there for that. So. Yeah, I get that, but that twist about getting your money back, that is something that's admirable about the coverage.
It's fun.
There. So,
that's probably my favorite part. I hate when people need to use our plans. I love being for them when they do, but I love being this little Ed McMahon. Shoot, 2 weeks ago, I delivered $34,000 between two families in Louisville, Nebraska. I mean, that's pretty fun.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible. So you've devoted yourself. I noticed as reading a little bit about your bio and, about the 15 years and not doing that, but you kind of got yourself encapsulated being with employee benefits and such, and how you could kind of help, individuals, maybe if they're business owners or, not necessarily business owners, but just being able to help them and facilitate them or navigate with that, which I think a lot of times people have a difficult time doing, where they need to talk to an expert or somebody that has the insurance background in order to say, hey, if this is what happens, this could not be such a good thing for you. So educating people definitely is something. So do you do conferences now to educate people on that, or how do you go out there and spread the word on that?
Yeah, it started off kind of door to door, actually. Our former parent company was a door to door organization, Southwestern. They sold Bibles door to door starting in 1868. So, I mean, they've been around forever. And then a couple years in, I got good at going business to business, kind of in a similar fashion up and down the street. And then, that evolved into offering it through the employer. So we kind of have this symbiotic relationship where we do all the work, right? We make them look like the good guys. It's an added value to the employees. They can take better care of their employees.
Right.
So hopefully that helps with morale, retention, productivity, which ultimately funnels to profitability. And then, we have a more mobile workforce where the average American has 13 jobs. So retaining employees is huge as well, because payroll is the biggest line item typically, and training new employees takes a lot of time, effort, energy, and money. So that's kind of the win-win-win scenario that we've developed over the years. We generally don't go through payroll either, which is nice. So there's no even administrative work on their end. And so when I say we do the work and make them look like the good guys, that's true. 100%. And so now these relationships that we build, we can work with these businesses every single year like clockwork. So over time, a career grows to more kind of relationship management versus sales hunting at first. There's always going to be a hunting component, new client acquisition, but I was at a conference just yesterday and that we've gone to, for years. And it's, making new relationships and connections and deepening old ones. It's pretty fun. I'm slated to speak at an event here in Lincoln in September, where there's going to be some sort of educational factor. Hopefully a couple thousand people will be there. And
that'll be terrific. That'll be terrific.
That's awesome.
and that's kind of what led Chad and I down that particular road too, because, like yourself, I sold that coverage door to door right out of college. Yes. It was the hardest thing. It was the hardest thing I ever did. And then basically from the 2 years to the date, because I said everything that I looked at was like, if you're applying for a job, they want at least 2 years, so you got that stability or whatever it is. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 years, come hell or high water. And I was getting those commission checks and those overrides or whatever it is. But but it was the biggest learning curve I ever had in my life. And I was very passionate about it. So we've always been around the insurance side of things, but understanding that. And that's where I think Chad and we complement each other, where he kind of takes more of the tax and the bookkeeping and the financial planning, and I do help with that, but we can help facilitate with people like partners like yourself, Mark, that can go out there and say, hey, now it might be a good time because we are growing as an organization. What can I add to the repertoire to provide better benefits to our employees? And that's where I see us as a unit kind of going with this and having those strategic partners with yourself. So that's right on.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mark, so you've been in this business for a while. Kyle was in it for a few years. People don't succeed in this business, man. I mean, typically, I don't know the percentages. You probably know the percentages, but it's low once the first couple of years, right? The success rate. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words out there, but I guess for me, how'd you make it? I mean, the disciplines early on that you had, going door to door, grinding through to build that base, to ultimately becoming one of 24 agency owners.
Yeah, that's
that's a pretty remarkable feat. Agency owner. There's 24 in the country, right?
Yeah, with our company. Yeah.
Yeah, you're one of
1,500 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you transition, and how did you stick in the game?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. A lot of grit, I would say. I love the Mike Tyson quote that says everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. In this career, I think the reason people don't stick in anything like this is it's harder than people think it is. Yes, it's a great product. Yes, it's at a reasonable price point, right? Average plan's $84 a month. That's $21 a week. Like, most people blow that on beef jerky and scratchers at the gas station, right? Yeah, people would rather spend it on beef jerky and scratchers rather than securing their future, unfortunately. And then the other thing is that nobody is as tough as they think they are, myself included. So when you go out there week 1, week 2, week 3, you have a servant's heart. You want people to be doing better. You know what you have could actually help them. You could potentially save their lives. And then they tell you to kick rocks and go away, and I'm busy and I'm doing payroll and get the heck out of here. All the rejection, that hurts. That stings really, really, really bad. It feels like a character attack. And you have a decision of, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to grow, or am I going to, retreat? And, everybody wants growth. That's one of our core values. We can talk about that later, but nobody wants growing pains, right? Everyone wants muscles, but no one wants to go to the gym to get them. So it started off, I think, with just one, being passionate about what you do, like literally believing in what you do. I owned this thing 2 years before I started here. I'm not saying you have to do that, but Zig Ziglar has this great quote that says, if you don't believe in what you're selling, that's kind of like working at Ford and driving a Chevy truck there every day. It just doesn't add up.
Right.
So being passionate about what we do, realizing how it could have helped my family, knowing there's other people out there. I mean, the stats say I think only 7% of American families have a supplemental coverage plan.
Probably.
So there's tons of people, and that doesn't mean that 93% haven't been exposed. I'm sure, but they just don't have it. Maybe they haven't been educated properly, which we do a very education-based marketing program, and then just wanting to help people, and that's really what it was.
I think that's huge. Wanting to help, right? Everybody gets into a career or sales or whatever, or maybe it's accounting and they're an accountant like me, right? It's about the dollars. That's what our society kind of teaches people to go after, unfortunately, especially on the social media, all the influencers, you see the Lamborghinis, everybody's after that money. But what they don't understand, a lot of them is, and I've been there, right? If you're pursuing that, you're not going to ultimately win the long game. You have to pursue that value, that passion of helping others. Now, maybe it's on your end, it's helping protect people against some things that could happen that could negatively impact their lives. For us, it might be helping a client, through a tax situation or save money, whatever it may be. But it's that drive for that ultimate, who is this serving? And then you'll be successful if you focus here, right? It sounds like that's what you're.
Absolutely. It's more about the client, and my attitude is this, like, although I think everybody should have our plan, unless you're, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, that's my philosophy. So I believe in what we do.
Right.
But my view of sales is this: selling is not tricking people to buy things they don't want or don't need. It's not selling ice to Eskimos. It's not red popsicles to ladies in white gloves or getting them in a headlock so they're pressured to buy. None of that crap. Like, my philosophy is, you need to look at this. I don't care if you get it or not, but you need to look at it. And then I'll show it to them. And then I bow down and let them make the decision. If they want it, it makes sense. If it's the budget, yeah, I'll show you how to get it. If it doesn't, great. That's okay too. But at least you've now made a good decision based on good information. So my job is just to get in front of, and I know it's a good enough plan, and I believe in myself enough that if I get in front of enough people, I will find those people that see value in it and want to get it.
Right.
Right. And I know we've had, I think we've got one of your agents that she comes by our office every year for the last 4 or 5 years, type of thing. So, I mean, I'm a firm believer in it, and I know we've got a lot of successes, within our own organization to take advantage of those things. But I see you probably had a little bit of I didn't have a background like you did, because of course your father passed away from cancer. You saw firsthand. I think that maybe had something to do, because I've been in and out of the insurance industry a number of times. I am licensed now, and I'm not going to let that expire again. I mean, I'm just passionate about what it is that we do, but to have that passion to go to work every day, I mean, it's hard to do. But then you already have a story, right? So,
yeah, I do. And I talk about with the people that I lead. Yeah, that helps. But here's the crazy thing I've learned is, like, given the people that I've met over the past 15 years, I met 2 people on Tuesday in Gretna, Nebraska. One is 29 years old with terminal brain cancer. And she was like, "Where were you, 6 months ago before my diagnosis?" Another gentleman's 48 years old. He had a crazy viral infection that when they did a full body scan, they found out that he had kidney cancer. So this viral infection that almost killed him might have actually saved his life, because now they're going to, deal with his kidney. Where were you before this stuff happened? So I just know there's people out there that still need our plan. And then I've had my personal clients, thank me for stopping by. And so I'm actually, believe it or not, more passionate about what we do now after helping people for 15 years than I was when I first started. And I don't think you have to have a story like mine. It might help, for sure it does. But if you have any shred of empathy and caring about your fellow man, if you just kind of go talk to people, because everybody knows people that have dealt with cancer, heart attacks, strokes, accidents, babies born. If you just talk to people, and then you have that empathy, and then you imagine, like, okay, what if that happened to my family? What would that look like? Okay, well, what if that happened to this next person I'm going to go talk to? That empathy and that caring for your fellow humans will drive you, for sure. You don't have to have a story. It definitely helps a little bit, right, but not a requirement.
Yeah,
sure.
No, that's good. So that grit, that grind, that passion, that's what got you through those hard years. Now you started building a team, or not just helping the folks that that were buying your plans, or the businesses provide additional benefits, but you started impacting lives for people that kind of were growing under you, right? So how did you have to shift, and in that transition where now you're leading others, is how did you develop to generate a big enough team or the resource? I don't know how you become an agency owner, but I assume it's because you led people and you started leading more people than a lot of others in the country. And they said, oh, he's pretty darn good at it. Right.
Yeah.
So how did that, were you always a leader, or how did you transition into that? What principles you went by? I mean, what drives that?
Yeah, that's a good question too. A lot of crappy leadership for like anything worthwhile is worth doing poorly at first. And you know,
Good point.
yeah. So I was a crappy leader, and it wasn't that I was bad. Like I wasn't like an arrogant yelling, but it's just, my skill set wasn't built yet. And,
Right.
I had to make a lot of mistakes, and it's kind of like parenting. I've got 3 small kids, and it's like, as long as you use common sense, you're going to make some mistakes, but you can't mess it up too bad, right? As long as you don't shake the baby, use some common sense, you'll be fine. And you can just learn from your mistakes. And so I had a pretty good first year. I was a top first year producer, Fast Start Award winner, mainly because I worked my butt off. Here's one thing to go back to your other point is they said the average person works about 40 hours a week. I worked about 55.
Sure.
So I did above average inputs, and guess what? I got above average outputs. Go figure. The path is in the math, baby. And I got to a point where I developed a skill set where I could get a week's worth of work done in 3 days. And now and then I got promoted. So now you can get more done in less time and get paid more for it while having more of an impact. So, but it took a while to do that. And then, starting my second year, I had opportunities just to field train people. And I thought, since I was good, I would just say, hey, follow me and do what I do. And I would show them a day of work and train them, but they couldn't do what I do, because I'm me and they're them. So I had to figure out duplicatable systems. I had to be duplicatable.
Right.
And, and people, it's funny, I've got the 5 love languages on my desk here because my wife and I are going through that book as a couple. And it's, the premise of that book by Chapman says most people show love the way they want to receive it, but it might not necessarily be the way your partner wants to receive it. So you could theoretically be showing them a ton of love and them not really getting the message, right? So it's like, hey, let's do the platinum rule instead of the golden rule. Let's show people love the way they want to receive it versus the way we want it. So same thing with leading. If I led people the way that I want to be led, I'm kind of a type A, hard charging, old school football coach, get in my face, grab my face mask, tell me to stop screwing up and get in there. But some people, you do that to them and they're going to be, they're gone. They're going to quit tomorrow. So I had to learn how to, lead a variety of different personalities. And that was just a lot of trial and error. And oops, that didn't work. Every once in a while there'd be okay, that worked pretty well. Right. And I just got better and better. And I'll tell you, it took a while until we found someone that stuck. It took quite a while. However, I would have not had been prepared for this person had I not had all the mess ups. If I would have waited until this A player got here, this guy was a top producer, sales guy at another company. Had I waited and not been working on my leadership and developing training skills, he probably still wouldn't be here because I wouldn't have been able to pour into his work what we did. And he's been here for a decade. He's more than tripled his income. He just got back from a month-long trip in Europe with his wife, which has been on his bucket list for a long time.
Yes.
And
he's done the work. I met that gentleman.
Yeah, I think you did meet John at the other the last mastermind. Yeah, and so he's done all the work, but it's really, really rewarding and fulfilling for me to be kind of the coach and the tour guide on that journey and to be a part of that testimony.
Right,
so,
but I think you have to almost, and what I identified is that you almost have to find those kind of employees that have that eagerness to want to learn. And sometimes they don't know how to do that themselves either. So you almost got to coach them up on, if you do, I've got the activity knowledge, I know how to do this, but, you have to open up your mind just enough to let me coach you a little bit so you can flourish and you can grow. And not everybody even has that to start with. How do you overcome that? To get people to have that openness to
some people just aren't open, unfortunately.
Right.
They have their closed minded. We call it a growth mindset, and we discussed that early in the interview process and the selection process that there's going to be stages of this business, and one of the permissions we get from people, we have some commitments we have people make to us that they're going to work hard, they're going to be trainable and coachable, They're going to give us permission to kind of, for lack of a better word, micromanage the crap out of them at first. Because unfortunately, that's what training is. When you don't know what you don't know, training is a version of micromanagement. Now, it's not a power trip. It's just, and I explained to them that, like, hey, yeah, big difference. I want to show you what to do. And I want to pass that baton to you as quickly as possible so that then our interactions can be about career development, can be about market growth. It can be about fun stuff. We have them commit to 90 days. This is their deal. They're going to put their head down and go to work because, I struggled my 5th week. I didn't sell anything my 5th week. I zeroed 55 hours in the field, no money, no nothing. And I had to call my mentors and say, man, I'm struggling. So I had to swallow my pride and ego. I had to reach out for help. I had to be open for the help. And they helped me and they coached me through it. But the most important thing is I put my head down and I went to work and I worked my way through it.
Right. When was that episode? What was that episode you're talking about? When were you having trouble with that?
Oh, my 5th week in the business.
The 5th week. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like your honeymoon period was over, the drive was there, and now you're just kind of,
yeah.
So,
I couldn't even. I had this pit in my stomach, and I couldn't even get out of my car to go talk to someone, and I had to work. I had to mentally, emotionally, and physically work through that.
Yeah, I used to have to drive around with a self-help book in my car, and then I'd go park. I mean, I'd be working out in the country. And I said, I got this farmhouse to go up there. And that guy, he looked me, I went by him on the road. He looks mean as hell. And like, there's nobody else to talk to out here. And, I'd stick my head in the book. And I remember the one time that I did that and I just got gone. And then I went in there and it was like in Richardson, North Dakota. And the guy bought 5 policies from me, it's just, but keeping yourself in the activities, not allowing yourself to go home to doing that. So.
Absolutely.
That's good. And the open mindset, and we've been just happened that if you got a growth mindset, otherwise you were just stagnant type of things. So but anyways, you ask them those types of questions up front when you hire them. And that's kind of a process where Chad and I were kind of going through that in Kinsler Brown here, is that when we hire anybody anymore to be part of our organization, that we've already identified that there are attributes and that one being one of the largest is that eagerness to learn, having that growth mindset. So and then we talk about those often. So when we have
it's our
we bring it up.
Yeah, our core values. That's one of our core values.
We have to remind them that this is why we're here and that we need to have you have that eagerness to learn and have that growth mindset rather than just being closed, to that. So
Mark, do you have a set of core values that you kind of live by, both from a business and maybe translates into your personal life as well? I know in watching you from a distance and just knowing you and having gone to the gym with you at 5 a.m. in Dallas when we were down there at Mastermind, you have a routine, man, and you're very structured, just like me. I try to be. I think you're a little more on point than me most days, but how did core values, routines, things like that translate to your success, both business and personal?
Yeah, that's a good question too. our core values are service, growth, and excellence, and we picked those very specifically. I picked those actually because those are my core values. I left honesty and integrity off of there because I think those should be given. Right? Margaret Thatcher has this great quote. It's about power, but she says, being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to tell someone you are one, you're not. So I feel the same way with honesty and integrity. They should just get that sense that you have that. Plus, I'm also a Jim Collins fan who, says if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. So there's some companies, First Form being one of them, they have 10 core values. I know Tony Hsieh's company, Zappos, had 10. That's probably the Nike, I think, had 10. That's probably the maximum you want to have. But I want it to be very, very simple and easy to remember. In fact, I was quizzing one of our teammates earlier today about mission, vision, core values, and our key tenets. And so, when you're of service, Jesus said, whoever wants to be the greatest amongst you, figure out how to serve the many. So we serve our clients. Like I said earlier, I don't care if you get it, but you need to learn about it. We serve as leaders. Our job is to serve our team, whereas they don't work for us, we work for them to teach, train, mentor, provide tools, remove obstacles, just show up. I remember when that gentleman started back in 2013, it was before I had unlimited minutes, and so my first month's cell phone bill was like $500 because he called me so much. So you can't just hire someone and say go do it. You have to support them, you have to be there, you have to mentor them, help them get a little bit better each day, which goes into the growth. right? If you're not growing, you're dying. So we should be better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we were today. That just 1% better each day. Well, what is that? 2,700% better by the end of a year.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's powerful, man. It's powerful.
Yeah, that compounding.
Unfortunately, and I've been down this road years ago, creating core values or whatever, and just putting a poster up or writing it down, telling people we have them, but not living it. That doesn't work, right? So many do that, and I've done that. We've done that as a business, but until core values that you live by are so important. I'll give you an example. We were looking to hire 3 to 4 kind of between entry level and advanced bookkeepers, across the board at various levels. And Indeed, ZipRecruiter, everybody, we're getting all these leads and a lot of folks just wouldn't show up. So, those are out. But then those that did, I think they met some of our core values but not others. And some were breathers. But man, we were at a point where we needed butts in seats, right? So I made the decision against the advice of our lead bookkeeper, director of bookkeeping, and said we need butts in seats and made the hires. 4 people. Guess how many were there within 45 days?
Probably -2. No, they're probably all gone.
0. And the negative comes from we wasted a hell of a lot of time bringing people on board and spending 45 days of training and our time and frustrations and energy trying to pour into something that wasn't going to be a fit. And we knew it the day we hired them. I knew it. My team knew it. I just made exceptions to that rule. So, man, core values and living by them is I think that's huge. And it's shown that was a year ago or so. We've got the right butts in the right seats. Now we have more seats to fill.
We've hired a lot. We've hired a lot since then, but we kind of changed that. It's not so much the job so much, but if you have the attributes and if you want to be part of these core values, if you can see yourself being part of that, then you're part of that Kinsler Brown organization. Then you'll grow within the organization. All that job stuff, that kind of comes later, you got to have the right mindset to start with. Another thing I was going to mention too, when you're talking about just caring for your employees, having the empathy and, and that type of thing. And something I find myself doing anymore is just, why do I always have to have a reason to call my employees? Why don't you just call your employees just for the sake of calling your employees to see how they're doing that day and say, hey, you're doing a great job type of thing. Just wanted to say hello. Haven't talked to you in a few days type of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of been different.
Yeah. No, it's powerful stuff.
Could you imagine, what's the rest of that person's day look like? They just, just out of the blue, just calling for that.
Am I in trouble? No, I just was thinking about you. I want to see how you're doing. And like, oh, wow, really? It might be weird the first time, but they they really care about me. Just having that community. You can't fake that. Yeah. You can't fake that. You're right. To your point, Chad, you got to live up to them every day, which is why I'm so regimented, because leadership is you're always on stage, whether you think you are or you aren't, every single day when no one's watching you. So I have to be the most driven, the most structured, the most motivated, the most everything. Right. So that, I'm not trying to blow other people's candle out to make mine shine brighter, but to be like, hey, when you say, hey, come follow me, when people look at you, they're like, well, are you worth following? And I want people to be like, yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with Mark, man. Because he not only is his business life, but your personal life. That's why these are all the core values for both.
Yeah. Right. No, and that's so important. You got to lead by example, and you set that example. But I'm a firm believer to enhance your productivity, your lifestyle, just personal and business, you have to have a morning routine. Right. I'm a firm believer in that. I think you might subscribe to that as well. What is your typical morning routine? Just to tell people out there, I don't want the stuff that can't be shared on platforms, but what's your morning routine look like to get you fired?
That's a good question. I'm on point right now, which is great, because there's been times in life where I'm not on point, and usually I'm working harder when I'm not on point than when I am, but it's because my morning routine is lax. And so I shared with you before the recording, my wife and I, it was her idea actually to do 75 hard together, and which has created a just awesome, both of us focus on our health, nutrition, our mental toughness, all of that stuff. So typically My alarm goes off at 3:45 in the morning. Actually, let me take that back. Your morning routine starts the night before. You don't just accidentally go to bed after a binge on Netflix and get up on time. So you got to make sure you get enough sleep. And, how much is enough sleep? It depends on who you ask. So, I'm experimenting with that right now. So typically I go to bed between 9 and 10 o'clock.
Right.
I get up at 3:45. I weigh myself. I weigh in. And then I get in the shower and I turn it to cold, straight cold for 5 minutes. And maybe I go to the bathroom first. Let's be real. I'm getting older. So I take a cold shower for 5 minutes to work on I impact controlled adversity against myself initially first thing. And guess what? That's a great way to wake up. And I'm experimenting with, I might want to get a cold plunge. And before I drop the money into it, I'm going to see if I'll actually do it. So this is a market test. Then I go downstairs and I eat 2 protein bars and a banana, so I get some protein in my system and a little fructose. And then I have a Muse headband, which is a meditation. It's an EEG device that gives you some biofeedback. And I just meditate for 10 minutes. And the rain will tell me when it's pouring thunderstorms outside, my brain is crazy. When the birds are chirping, my brain is mellow, because that's when it's most malleable when you first wake up in the morning. Then I go work out. I get my weights in for the day. Then I go upstairs and usually then I'll read for 10 pages when I take my protein shake after my workout. And then I'll go upstairs, shower, get ready, get to work. I mean, today I got to the office about 6:30.
Yeah. Right. So by 6:30, you're at your office after you've done all of that. And that right there, I mean, that's enough stuff that would get enough people filled for until noon oftentimes.
Yeah. Well, I learned this. I sold books for Southwestern back in 2003. That was our former parent company. And they had a routine as well. These are a bunch of college kids in a college internship. So, you get up at 6 o'clock, you take a cold shower, you pack your lunch, you're out of the house by 6:59, you're at your breakfast spot, you're doing your deal, you're doing your readings, and you're knocking on doors by 7:59 in the morning. So before you even have your first appointment and you've brushed your teeth and all sorts, you're like 10-0. So you're just stacking these little micro wins before you even get started. And so your confidence is up, your attitude is up, your energy is up, and that just helps you have an awesome day, regardless of what's happening the rest of the day.
You're on fire. But then at the end of the day, and then gosh forbid if you go out and you sell something, but you've got that mindset that you need. You're mentally sharp, and that's incredible. You're able to just stack on top of that, all day long. And then when you come around to 6, 7 o'clock at night, you're starting to get tired, and then you're ready to go to bed at night. And I love that point about the morning starts the night before. I was looking at the clock last night and I was watching my last YouTube videos of the night. And I was like, I get one more in or whatever. No, I got to go to bed, man. It's 10:30 now or whatever it is. And I want to get up. I want to go to the gym. I got 2 things. I got to do this podcast tomorrow and, that type of thing. But it is something that I need to work on. And I know Chad, he's been big on that. And Mark and seeing that you're kind of in that same wheelhouse there. And maybe one day we talk about one of these things. We'll talk about what that 75 hard is all about. We mentioned it a couple of times, but it's more of not so much of a physical, but it's a mental toughness discipline attribute. I haven't gone through it myself, but I see what it does in all those people that I'm associated with. And Mark, you're on day 17 of that.
17 days. This started day 18. So if you would have asked me that 3 weeks ago, my morning routine would not have been as rigorous. It would have involved getting up probably about 5, working out, but I just added a little bit more because I want to maximize the benefits of going through this program, right? If I'm going to do something, guess what? Our third core value is excellence. I'm going to do it really, really well.
Right.
No, and that's so important. And Kyle hit it on the head. Everybody that hasn't gone through 75 hard, or most people think it's just about getting in shape and lifting weights. That is about 10% of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is about that discipline and structure. And Kyle and I, we had a podcast last week. We were actually talking about that in the fitness space. If you have a morning routine and you're going to the gym and or going outside and breaking a sweat, getting that sun, getting that cold water poured on you, right? It's those things that you're stacking wins in the morning and you're getting twice as much productivity as you were before you were doing it because you're structured, you're on point, you're very disciplined. Whereas before it's kind of like, oh, I'll pick up that phone and do a little Facebook time, or I'll do. Your discipline is more because of that. So it's been huge for me. I know you're on that journey as well. You have a little more energy than I do, though, bro. And so I don't know. I need to get some of those protein bars and bananas you've been eating in the morning.
Costco, baby. I eat so much of them, we have to buy them at Costco. We buy them in bulk.
There you go.
know.
Nice. Well, hey, Matt, you mentioned another thing is, when we were talking just previously is on the core values and bringing the right people in. You're slow to hire, quick to fire. I think that we discussed that a little bit, but how does that apply to your decision-making process overall? Like, are you quick to make decisions? Or are you slow to make?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm pretty quick to make decisions because life is moving so fast in this position I am. Like, I don't have the luxury of noodling on stuff forever. Stuff will fall through the cracks. So I have to be quick. But early on, I was not quick. And there's I think it's bad advice out there. I've heard it in several books, is just be slow to make decisions. Be slow. You want to make sure you make the right decision. And what happens is you get stuck in a state of indecision, which ultimately is a slow, agonizing death of no. So I realized that and the time wasted on it because I just experienced it. So, and I think people fall into that because they fear making a bad decision. I would rather, and again, it goes back to as long as you use common sense, you can't mess. Yeah, there's gonna be some mess ups, there's gonna be some apologies, but as long as you own your stuff, you're authentic, you're genuine, people know you're not trying to be a jerk, they'll forgive you, they'll be fine, as long as you don't do anything too stupid. And my philosophy is now fail forward faster. And so I'm quick to make decisions. I said fail forward faster,
Fail forward faster. But I also like the saying, like, anything worthwhile doing is worth doing poorly to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
You may not have the right decisions. I like that.
Yeah, and you can't screw it up that bad. And then it's really easy to make snap decisions because you weigh them against your mission, your vision, your core values. So it's really simple to say, hey, does this line up? Yay, nay. Okay, this is what we're doing.
Right.
Very, very simple. When you haven't defined them, then it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, and then you start making exceptions and the lines move and all this other stuff. And it's really easy when it's clearly defined.
Right. Much better.
Awesome. Good stuff. KPIs, key performance indicators, right? You're doing 75 hard. You said you're on the scale. I don't know if you use the app or put it in your notebook. You're checking off your power list every day. What are a couple KPIs that you use in business that really, we've got all kinds of KPIs we can look at, but what are kind of the top two that you look at in terms of making sure your team and your business is moving forward, as well as maybe your personal life, if you implement KPIs on that side?
Absolutely. Those are good questions. I'll say for an individual teammate, who's just getting started, we're really focused on how many hours are they actually in the field actively hunting for and prospecting for new business, and then how many people do they actually interact with, introduce themselves to, and then how many people do they actually sit down and show in depth and detail what we do. That gives us some good ratios, introductions to sit down to closing. We'll also track their average sale per client. And what ends up happening is now, instead of saying, well, hey, how's your week going? Oh, it's going pretty good, which is really, really, really subjective. It's like we can objectively look and say, okay, what are you doing with your time? Are you giving yourself, and I really don't care how many hours people work. I really don't. Right. If you can get your job done in 20 hours, great, go do that. But the hours are there just to get you enough space to get those controllable activities. I mentioned when I started, I was not very good. I had to put in at least 55 hours a week of actively hunting for and prospecting for businesses. And then on top of that, there's probably an additional 10 that was, meetings, studies, being a student of the game, like prep work. Like, you didn't just go out and accidentally make it happen. So it was a lot at first, and I was able to scale back after a little while of getting some proficiencies and getting through the learning curve. But that's for a new agent. Organizationally, we look at how many people, I'm not so much in a personal production role. I'm more in a leadership role. So I'm looking at, key leaders, teams, and how many people do they have producing every week? What are their individual KPIs? And then as the overall, and this is what I love. I love win-win-win situations, and I hate win-lose situations. I think I heard Captain Kirk say that way back in the day. Like, he doesn't believe in the no-win situation. And so, most of life is like a zero-sum game, meaning, if I'm going to win, you're going to lose. If I'm going to sell you my car and win, you're gonna have to lose and pay more money. But if you're gonna win, I have to accept less money. I hate that. Unfortunately, that's the way selling cars go. But when it's like when I can help people do well in their world, it comes back. The better they do, the better we do. So I have a vested interest in everybody doing well. And so the agency that I'm in charge of, when each individual person and then their teammates, which forms their team, that feeds up to the whole agency. When they hit their goals, we hit our collective goals, right? And so that's what I'm looking at as an organization. Plus, as we're looking to new talent acquisition, how many conversations are we having with people that are, actively dissatisfied with their job? Most people wake up on Monday morning and they hate to go to work, but they do it anyways because they feel like they have to, because they have obligations to pay. But it's not very fulfilling, and here's a good point. It's really easy for me to get up at 3:45 in the morning and do that and get to the office at 6:30 because I'm excited about what we do. Yeah, there's things I don't like. They call it work for a reason. Like paperwork, I don't really care for. But I'm excited at the impact that we're having in our clients' worlds and also our agents' lives as well. So, and then personally, I hop on the scale every single day. The scale sends it to the phone. I have the 75 Hard app where I check stuff down. I would love to tell you that I'm smart enough to keep track of all this stuff in my head. I'm not. I have checklists. I got this here. This is just a daily checklist of things that need to happen every day of the week, random stuff that comes up. I've got my big 6 key tasks there. So, nice. I've got a notebook. I'm old school, man. I'm an old soul. I've got a notebook I take notes on. I take this with me everywhere. I even have the other one from the very first time we met, Chad. I was looking, Jesse, Boss Lee gave a talk about leadership. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember that. The notes are right in here. So I have this book that I started February 2nd, 2022, and there's highlights and stuff. So, I keep them so I can refer back to them.
Right.
No, that's awesome. I use a notebook, but man, you got a little more tedious record keeping than I do. I do carry it everywhere though, but your notes are a little more diligent than mine. I think you may have shared some with me before because I missed a few points, but anyway, no, good stuff, man. Where can people find you to follow you on social media, engage with you? And before you say that, just a quick plug is I think Kyle referenced at the beginning of the show is our organization does contract with or work with Mark's team through one of his local agents that supports us. It's been a great value add and boost that we can provide our employees. So, if any of you listening are looking to add a low cost or no cost value, that's something that your employees could significantly benefit from, I definitely encourage you to reach out. So Mark, where can they find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you guys. We just appreciate the chance to serve your employees because, when stuff like that catastrophic, this isn't, I sliced my finger cutting tomatoes and I need 3 stitches. Those things stink. Most people can handle that. Most people can pay to go to urgent care. It's these crazy life-altering things, cancer, heart attack, strokes, accidents. And especially, I don't care what business it is, but especially in the smaller businesses, it's like a family, man. And when one person is dealing with stuff, everybody feels that not only just with an increased workload where you have to cover for someone, but just emotionally. So to help alleviate some of that is an honor and a privilege. So I appreciate you. That was super cool because we I think we have someone work there, and we're like, is it this person? No, is it that person? Yeah. And then we're taking selfies and texting her, and she's like, oh my gosh, how did you be in Dallas? It's such a big city. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. I think it's just markbeelek.com, so okay. MARK, as in boy, EELEK. I'm also on Instagram. There's also, what else? LinkedIn. Those are the primary ones I'm doing right now.
Awesome. No, man, I appreciate your time and everyone. I'd recommend you follow Mark. He just puts a lot of positive, inspirational stuff out there. Good, actionable items and intel that he's doing it himself because I've seen it. So thanks again, Mark, for joining. We're glad to have you. I think you impacted a lot of lives by putting some of your wisdom out there because I've seen you walk the walk. And our goal here at the KB article is really just provide information to folks that can assist in their personal or business growth, financial well-being, that sort of thing. So I think we definitely did that today. So appreciate your time.
Yeah. And Mark, and Mark and Chad, I think we left a lot on the table there. So I love this discussion. There's a lot of good things that are coming out, things that we talk about often within our organization. We'd love to have you back, Mark, on down the line there. And just thanks for spending the time with us today. And being part of the article.
You're super welcome, man. I appreciate the opportunity. So anytime, reach out.
Best
All
of
right,
luck
guys.
to you, and your employees and your agents are always welcome to stop on by. And I love it. Last time your agent brought another agent. And that's just what I was talking about on my morning reel this morning. They were talking about delegating and how then now it's kind of down the line. Now she's, doing what you were brought up to do, and now the next generation's coming behind, that type of thing. And I was getting kind of a kick out of that because I love that.
Absolutely. Just
Layering
paying it
like
forward.
that. Yep. So that's fantastic.